I'm Lin-Manuel Miranda, and you're listening to Hard Knock Life.
Well, it's the NOC in full color, you see me? The Hard Knock Life, comics, movies, and TV, yeah.
Welcome to Hard Knock Life. I am Keith Chow.
I'm Brittany Monet.
Hi, I'm Dominic Ma.
Happy Lunar New Year. We are starting the year of the Tiger off right. The Cincinnati Bengals are going to the Super Bowl. I feel like it's karma that the one football team named after Tigers is going to the Super Bowl.
Darn that. As a Bay Area person, I'm sad
sorry.
that you led with sports.
I was going to say that, no one's tuning into Hard Knock Life for like the download on football, but I was thinking that it would have been appropriate, being that it's Lunar New Year, that the San Francisco 49ers would go up against the Cincinnati Bengals in the Super Bowl, since the Bengals, of course, it's the year of the Tiger, and San Francisco because of Chinese. So I think that's the
Although remember,
plus they're red and gold. Red and gold is their color, so it's very New Year.
They're very Chinese and Asian associated, I think. But it was, remember, we're debranding Chinese New Year to be Lunar New Year.
True.
Which is not, well, I don't know. I think it's like one of the more nitpicky things within the Asian American community, but it's just more true that like Lunar New Year is like a thing of the earth. It's not like it's not like some weird New Year's that Chinese people invented.
Yeah, I apologize for all of the Koreans and Vietnamese and non-Chinese people listening, but I was just thinking, as from my own Chinese privilege.
But it would have been
experience
awesome
that the red and gold of San Francisco is very much kitschy Chinese New Year kind of color scheme is all I'm saying.
I am not a huge football fan, but the only other two times the Bengals have gone to the Super Bowl were back in the 80s against the 49ers. They got beaten twice in 1982 and 1989, I believe. So this would have been a kind of trilogy and would have been a way to, I believe we'd gone in a time warp back to 1982 and everything was fine and nothing had happened.
Yeah. Exactly.
But anyway,
make America great again. Is that what you're saying, Dominic? Can I quote you?
I just would have liked to live in that moment when it was just 1982.
And G.I. Joe had just come out for the first time. You were discovering Storm Shadow.
No internet hadn't made any mistakes yet. And look, your local team is winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But it's not to be. So there's that. Yeah. And Lunar New Year. And it's also going to be Black History Month. So, there's that.
February is a hell of a time.
Indeed.
So I gave you guys some homework after last episode. I said, hey, watch Peacemaker.
Watch some Peacemaker.
Brittany, did you do your homework?
I did not. And it's not because I don't want to watch the show. It's a show I started with my little brother. And also, like, he started making me watch Dexter, which I really like that. So we've been more like, you want to watch Dexter? And that's what our thing has been right now. He is like already on the like current new, like how they brought the show back.
The reboot.
Yeah, he's already like on that or already finished it or whatever. And I'm just like on season 2 right now. But yeah, like I think I talked about it last episode. I was really happy that I like figured out who the killer was in the first season before. But yeah, I would like to thank, Netflix's Richard Ramirez Night Stalker documentary for me picking up on that.
Okay, so you do watch shows about violent white guys with your little brother is sort of the pattern.
Yeah.
I mean, like Peacemaker wouldn't be out of the question.
Right. And we're going to spoil the first 5 episodes of Peacemaker, but I'll also say that if your brother and you would like to see some gore, like, basically a gorilla gets sawed in half with a chainsaw. That's pretty brutal. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah. And it's not Gorilla Grodd. Can we clear this? I don't know.
It wasn't Gorilla
Grodd
no.
already.
Nor was it Ultra Humanite. It was none of the
Ultra Humanite.
Flashverse had its own Gorilla Grodd. Right.
I knew there were a couple super gorillas flying around in the DC.
Yeah, and this was just a rando gorilla that they murked with a chainsaw, which was not unexpected for a show like this. But anyway,
but you're getting ahead of yourself.
Yeah. No pun intended. I said my piece last week about Peacemaker. Dominic, now that you've caught up, what is your opinion? Because, you weren't a huge fan of the character coming out of Suicide Squad, right? Where you were in the same boat as most humans on the planet.
Oh, yeah.
When hearing about John Cena's getting the spinoff of all the characters.
But that's the brilliance of Suicide Squad. I wasn't a fan of any of those characters. I mean, like,
Say for Harley.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Except for Harley Quinn, who is one of the centers of the DC universe, is always good, like Catwoman. But apart from that, I mean, one thing I really got from James Gunn is that he's a guy who's actually read all those Suicide Squad comics, especially the ones by John Ostrander. So, you know, in that sense, the guy after my own heart. And so, because he picks on characters like Judo Master and Peacemaker, who showed up in a few Suicide comics, and no one cares too much about. And I remember at one point back, you know, before Suicide Squad came out, there was some like confusion over whether the lead character was going to be Bloodsport or Vigilante. And I think maybe he was going to be Vigilante at some point, but then maybe you know, they said, oh, maybe we're going to save Vigilante for this other thing. And imagine like a deeper dive DC nerdy problem of that. Deciding between Bloodsport or Vigilante, you know, two obscure gun-toting guys who really no one cares about. All that to say, I love these obscure characters.
Well, and then you get your fix of Vigilante in the Peacemaker
exactly.
show.
And he's funny, and dorky. I think he's kind of like Robin, like a funny version of Robin. So, I mean, more psychotic, obviously. And I mean,
have you watched Titans? Dick Grayson's pretty psychotic too.
Yeah, you're right. But this show, for one thing, is funnier than Titans, and that's always the questionable part with James Gunn. Like, was like, is this funny? Like, really funny? I was always the opinion that like Guardians of the Galaxy wasn't really that funny. I found it very charming, and then he tells a lot of bad jokes along the way. But you know, this
intentionally, right? Intentionally.
But Peacemaker's really pretty funny, and for better for worse, it is trying to get into the psyche of the white male muscly hero and the whole culture around that. And I think it's pretty interesting.
I think it does a great job of interrogating that too. Honestly, like I think there is a world in which a Peacemaker show could have been made that doesn't go in the direction that this show does, right? Where it's glorifies the muscly gun-toting vigilante and not deconstructs it and not tries to like get at why is that person the way he is, and because you know, you said it's funny, and it's hilarious, it's fucking hilarious. It's one of the like few shows in the last 5 years where I've actually laughed out loud watching it. But it's also, in my mind, deeply sad. Like there's a sadness to the show, there's a sadness to the character, you know, as like on the surface, as hilarious as it is that his best friend is an eagle that hugs him. There's also something deeply sad about that too. Well, and then I think his friendship with Danielle Brooks's character is also really, really interesting. And they're both, not to equate Peacemaker's father with her mother, who is, spoiler alert, Amanda Waller, but they're both trying to get out of the shadows of their overbearing parents. And anyway, I mean, I there's a lot to the show that's worth watching, Brittany. I know that once you finish binging Dexter, I feel like Peacemaker should be next on the list because I think you'll dig a lot of it, and I think you'll like Vigilante. I think he's your type.
I like the first episode, so I'm not like against it. It's just been like every time me and my brother are gonna watch something, it's like, you want to watch Dexter? I'm like, okay.
Well, you know what? And there's just too much shit to watch nowadays, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just it's too much. Slow down, content creators.
Like he barely started watching Cobra Kai on his own, but like me, my mom and dad, we need to start the current new season. Like we all watch like different stuff, or some stuff we watch together, whatever. Then usually like Tuesday nights I get off work at like around midnight, and so I usually when I come home it's like, all right, let's watch Boba Fett. So like as soon as I come home with her, all right, let's watch it.
Yeah. Only certain shows get that like must watch, right?
Yeah.
Peacemaker does not sound like anyone's must watch. I'll
Peacemaker isn't anyone's. It's right,
but it's funny. But I think he's kind of leaning into that. It is very much for the comic book nerds, which he is. And I want to say, like when you said about the sadness, like you mentioned that last week, and like for example, that scene where he's in bed just crying and hating on himself. Like, you know,
for murdering Rick Flag.
Yes, it's a very internal scene, which everyone has done at some point. You're just in bed, just hating yourself and bawling at the world. I mean, that very much echoes this scene, which was in his old movie Super. Do you remember Super, where James Gunn got his starts? And in that case, it was the pseudo superhero played by Rainn Wilson, who has this crying, sobbing, tearing himself apart scene in the bed. And it's stuff like that, which it's a trick, but it's very effective because we've all been there. And I say all this at the risk of censoring the white male auteur guy in our conversation, which we do too much sometimes, and we just make it all about their experiences. But they're part of this bigger picture, towards making a better world, a more equitable world. So they need to have shows that do this kind of interrogation.
I mean, to James Gunn's credit too, because again, he didn't have to take the show in the directions that he does. That's, I think, to me, what was surprising in Suicide Squad, there was no inclination that there was anything deeper to Peacemaker than guy likes to shoot people, and I think that's probably what made him ripe for his own series, is that in that movie, he's the only character that doesn't really have an arc. Bloodsport has an arc, Ratcatcher has an arc, Harley has an arc. Peacemaker's the asshole from beginning of the movie to the end of the movie, right? So the fact that he's the one that gets explored, it's unfortunate that like the lone muscly white guy is the one who gets explored, but the fact that he's surrounded by the cast that he's surrounded by, even I was curious what your take on Judo Master is, because there is a world in which his Asian stature is a joke, and it does kind of like toe the line that like this little tiny Asian guy is a tiny little Asian guy, which is a joke we've seen in like Ocean's 11 and all the, and literally everything that media has portrayed about Asian men in particular. Where do you land on that particular character? Because again, Judo Master is a real character from DC Comics, an unfortunate Asian stereotype in DC Comics history, but I will reserve judgment, or at least I won't say what I thought of the character until I hear what
because I was going to reserve judgment, because I gotta say I didn't do a close reading on Judo Master. It might have been like eating some hash browns at the time. I did observe he was in the show. It was Asian, and because I was going to ask you about the cop, who is, I think, a fun character, right? Sophia Song, or is it Sonia Song? Something like that, a comic booky name. But let me defer on the question of Judo Master at the moment. Did you have something you want to say about Judo Master?
Well, no, I mean, I like the fact that, he's got these characteristics that are non-stereotypical. Yes, he's a tiny little Asian guy who could kick your ass, but he's also like, he's got an obsession with potato chips for some reason. And he's a bit of a smart ass, like I'm saying, like surface level, if you were to just like pull back and see, it's particularly like the opening credits, the masterful opening credits of Peacemaker, Judo Master kind of jumps into John Cena's arms with the hands up, and it's a little emasculating. It's a little child, like I didn't even realize it was a guy. Like I thought it was a little child because Judo Master doesn't show up until like 3 or 4 episodes into the series. But I don't know. I think the actor who portrays him, Lee, I think, he's in on the joke. I don't think his presence is not the butt of the joke. Even that Steve Agee does like a Karate Kid crane kick thing after he quote unquote beats him, also gets his comeuppance, like basically his racist reaction gets a comeuppance. I kind of appreciate that. And I just think there is a world in which people would look at that on the surface and just think, perpetuating Asian stereotypes. And I also think having that detective character is another where, like, if Judo Master was the only Asian character on the show, it does fall into the trap of perhaps like perpetuating stereotypes. But you have like multiple Asian characters on the show, the Detective Song characters actively pushing back against racist Asian jokes that she encounters, like when she calls Peacemaker's father fork, because he calls her chopsticks, like that kind of thing. I think again, it's a lot smarter about these tropes than I think a lot of shows. It's definitely smarter than like Iron Fist was.
For sure. For sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like I think they don't kind of like sweep it under the rug, but they also don't excuse people's behaviors either. You know what I mean?
Well, it's a question I have. It's one of the questions I have about Peacemaker, an open question, especially about Detective Song. Like in that case, that's like she has some great scenes, but something about that, I wonder if it's just like a surface level engagement of like, we know that Peacemaker's father is really racist, and like racism is bad because of this and this. I mean, like, again, it's a question of perspective. Like being called egg foo young or chopstick is not really the most terrible part of Asian American experience. Okay, it's from an outside perspective, from a white guy perspective, that maybe like, oh, I just won't call people slanderous comedians or something. No, I mean, like there's much more important structural things like that. Like, for example, like, considering all the women, docile sex bots, and all the men like invisible nerds, like something like that would be our larger scale structural problem.
Or even the fact, again, that economist Steve Agee's character defeats Judo Master. One, he runs him over with a car. So that's
right.
Levels the playing field there, but then beats him with, I believe, a golf club or a baseball bat or something.
Yes,
some sort of blunt instrument.
Yeah, so there's some
which brings back, it's a little Vincent Chinny. It's a little
there's some consistent imaging there that, again, the white guy perspective might not get. Oh, this is actually the more disturbing thing. It's not necessarily name calling. It's not purely inclusion. But yeah, so sometimes when you eradicate and just erase the Asian guy, well, yeah, that's the thing that keeps singing. However, but again, that's an open question.
Sure, the show's not over yet, right? There's, I think, 5 more episodes left. We don't know how it resolves. Judo Master is still alive, so I'll give him credit for not killing off Judo, even after the, Glenn from Walking Dead beat down that he gets in the middle of the field.
Oh, God, yeah.
That was one of the most. That's one of the reasons I checked out on Walking Dead. I was like, yes, I know it happens in the comic, but come on. And apparently, again, I've checked out on Walking Dead, so I haven't followed since they murdered Glenn.
Right. No, that was totally a deal breaker.
Yeah, but apparently, what's his name? Negan became like a popular character.
Yeah, he's just one of the guys on Walking Dead now.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, fuck that.
Yeah, no.
Anyway,
entirely fuck that. Yeah, so I have some open questions about Peacemaker, about whether it's going to resolve or just how it's going to get to some of these threads that they've opened. Like, for example, like, what is the relationship between Harcourt and Peacemaker going to end up as? Again, just centering the white people, but like, it opens up when a pretty clever scene about he's hitting on her in a bar, as like stupid muscly bros do, in the most conventional way, with no clever line or ever. And she tells him off about this whole thing about she just wants to have a drink. And so it's like, after setting that up, like, are they gonna do the most conventional thing of like the two pretty white leads are just gonna get together?
Yeah, I doubt it. I don't know.
I would think not.
Yeah, nothing points in that direction that Harcourt and Peacemaker actually consummate the relationship, because I think the crux, like the most important relationship on the show, I think, is Adebayo and Peacemaker.
Yeah,
like
Adebayo is
the fact that they're the ones who teamed up in the last episode,
right?
And then she learns the secret. We won't spoil, because I think there, some things you should discover on your own, Brittany.
Right.
But Adebayo discovers something at the end of episode 5 that I think will change the course of the series going forward too. But and I don't know what Waller's plot is. Like, she's got some ulterior motive with Peacemaker as well. So
yeah,
because she's Amanda Waller, she's got 12 ulterior motives at all times. But I to me, it's the plot is not even the most important thing. I think the relationships
are really been
what's
paying
interesting.
attention to the plot. Yes, it's more
I just like the way the characters relate to one another. And again, I like that it's deeper than I thought it would just be like but a bunch of laughs and some gore. But I've really appreciated like the relationships and again that kind of like underlying sadness to Christopher Smith that I didn't give 2 shits about, and now I give at least half a shit about.
And part of it again is that it's in this classic HBO show vein, in that there are gratuitous boobs and violence, and they say fuck a lot. And I mean, I think that's okay. I mean, it's a little trashy and has that stuff which is like, supposedly
plus the 80s glam rock. Yeah. There's so much 80s glamour, which I appreciate. Again, I did my Cinderella last week. I'm not going to torture you guys with my rendition of any Hanoi Rocks songs from this most recent episode, but I do appreciate, as someone who grew up on that trashy hair metal of the 80s, growing up in a small town in Virginia, I rocked my share of mullets and denim jackets. Trust me, there are photos that have all been burned and are not available on the internet, so don't even go looking for them. but I was that guy.
You were a hairband phase.
I was a hairband guy when I was in like middle school.
Awesome.
So I appreciate. I mean, I was like I said, I was singing some Cinderella last week. You know, don't know what you got till it's gone.
Great.
But you know, speaking of, you don't know what you got till it's gone. Totally unrelated, but I did want to address, since our podcast is available on Spotify, we are not exclusive to Spotify. And if we were, I would pull a, I may well pull a Neil Young and take this down from Spotify. But were you guys following the old 60s folk rock acts pulling their music off Spotify? And apparently, you know, people were clowning them because like, who listens to Neil Young? But Spotify lost like $4 billion in value over the weekend with these moves. What do you guys think of do you think all like conscientious musicians should just remove their music catalogs from Spotify?
I mean,
should we pull this down from, if you're listening on Spotify right now, should we just say see you later?
I do think this is a weird thing to talk about in the podcast format.
The podcast that you're listening on
we
Spotify.
can talk about it anyway.
yeah, it's very like, I don't know, because I know that like Joe Rogan brings a lot of people on his podcast. Even himself, his views are very like, okay,
fucked up.
Yeah. I don't know, because I don't listen to his actual podcast, so I only go off of what like people say that he says, you know. And I'm not trying to say people are lying either, but it's just like, since I don't fully listen to his podcast, I can't straight up say if he is spreading misinformation or not. But if he is genuinely spreading misinformation, then yeah, there needs to be at least some type of warning that like, you know, this podcast spreads information and stuff like that. Like, there should at least be a warning if you're not going to remove him off the like platform, because I don't know.
I mean, I also think like his fan, like it's so weird, right? Because what are the incentive structures nowadays? Because when you do deplatform someone, it almost feels like what you do is you just make them stronger in a way, because like their fans become even more. Right. And then their fans become even more like hardened and emboldened, right? Like then they can play the victim card. It's like Donald Trump perfected it in 2016. Right. You know, the notion of like, you know, if you cancel me or whatever, you know, I'm just going to come back even harder and stronger. I don't know. I just it's a weird, you're right. It's a weird thing to like think about. I'm actually like, I'm glad for Neil Young and Joni Mitchell and all those guys. Like, I was like telling Pearl Jam over the weekend, like, pull your shit off I mean, they took on Ticketmaster in the 90s. They could take on Spotify nowadays. You know what I mean? So, and I think the other thing that's surprising is that, like, you know, I saw people clowning Neil Young for doing it, but he's the type of musician and artist who's been doing shit like this his entire career. You know what I mean? Like and I think that not, you know, we do live in a pop music era or a popular music era that like maybe they don't take on their corporate overlords as much as they used to back in the day, you know. I don't know.
The only person that I feel like who could really cause an effect of them pulling their music would be someone like Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
If she pulled her music, then yeah, I think they would have no problem whatsoever kicking Joe Rogan off. Because no one wants to be on Taylor Swift's bad
I mean,
side.
I feel bad for the poor guy from Blur. Did you see like?
Yeah, he said she doesn't write her own songs, and I was like, oh no.
And it wasn't even necessarily like he wasn't just calling her out. You know what I mean? It was just like in the course of an interview. But holy shit, Taylor caught wind of that and was like, get him.
Yeah, but my thing is, if you're gonna talk bad about anyone, make sure what you're saying is at least like, you know, for sure that's the true fact. Like, everyone knows Taylor Swift writes her own songs. If you don't like them, you don't like them. But she writes her own music. Like, that is clear. She's always written her own music.
And he was like, I mean, again, I'm not taking sides, because you know I liked Blur back in the day too. My musical tastes were quite eclectic. I went from Poison to, you know, 90s Britpop in my course and over the course of like 4 years in high school. But anyway, I what I found was really hilarious about that interview is he called out Taylor for co-writing, because he was like, co-writing is not the same as writing. But then he was like, you know who's a really good example of someone I really enjoy? Billie Eilish, because she writes her songs with her brother. I'm like, isn't that co-writing, motherfucker?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is co-writing. Yeah, that is very much co-writing,
I
but
don't even know what songs get written by a bunch of different people, and some newsflash, some of them are not named in the writing credit even. So
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot
That
of
is
things
very
that ghost
true.
written. A lot of ghost written stuff.
But yeah, just to say Taylor Swift doesn't even like write her own songs or isn't as involved in her album making process as you would think is like, no, don't even go there. That's the one thing I know. It's very true. I do like Taylor Swift though, by the way, but like I just I don't know.
You were in that Blur Guys mentions, weren't you, Brittany?
No, I was not. I'm not that hardcore of a Swiftie. I like her. I'm not a Swiftie, but I like her music,
Sure.
and I really like her more newer stuff than her previous stuff. But that's just my personal like. I like sad emo songs, and she kind of went in the sad emo, like kind of country, but not country acoustic stuff.
Well, you
I
like her? What about her new stuff? That's her old stuff re-recorded. Are you into that?
Some of it's good, yeah. Well, it's just more so she could keep her masters.
Right. Well, and you can't
recommend-
really. Can you tell the difference? Can you, if you were to listen to like the original and then Taylor's version, like they sound pretty identical, don't they?
They sound pretty identical, but you can tell her voice is like a little bit stronger in some of the songs. Like some songs, you can tell her voice is stronger than what they were when she was like younger. So
like 17.
Yeah, but I'm all for her recording her masters because she should get to own her own music. Most artists should be able to, because it comes an issue where they can't play those songs anymore live or whatever when like they get into those situations.
And then that's the other thing about this whole conversation around streams is that, when you really dig into it, I know a lot of people are dropping their Spotify's, moving to Amazon, moving to Apple or whatever. But then like I saw a report where like artists make like a percentage of a percentage of a percentage of a percentage of a cent off each stream. Like it's so wild. Like how does that even? It's crazy to think that like all the and it's not like people made a lot of money like off of radio plays or CDs even. Like that's why a lot of bands tour. Like the money comes from touring, not from record sales. But like the fraction of a cent that you make off of a music stream, it's just like, what the fuck?
Well, yeah, because they got to pay all the higher up people at the label first, and then like your A&R, and if you didn't write any of your music or whatever, then they got to pay all those people, and then you get paid.
Yeah.
So that's how it works. So that's why it's better, unfortunately, if you are a artist who can write your own music and stuff, because then you get a higher kickback of like your stuff, and then you actually get a higher kickback if you are the lyricist versus the person who writes the music.
Yes, there are platforms besides Spotify for music, and they aren't like really weird obscure ones. There's some perfectly good music platforms.
Anyway, we'll leave it there because I want to dig in. The thing I really want to dig into this week is the most recent episode of the Book of Boba Fett. And so let's take a break. And on the other side, we'll talk about episode 5 of Book of Boba Fett or episode 1 of season 3 of Mandalorian. You decide. Happy Lunar New Year, everyone. How about upgrading your grooming routine for the new year, this year of the tiger, with our sponsors at Manscaped? Set your Lunar New Year's resolution with good intentions and join the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com, use the code HARDKNOCK, that's HARDNOC, and you'll get 20% off and free shipping off any order for the year of the tiger and beyond using manscaped.com products with the code HARDKNOCK, HARDNOC. One of the best parts of Lunar New Year is getting groomed up before the new year comes. And what better way to get groomed up than with Manscaped products?
Yes. Cleaning away the bad spirits and weird fuzz of the last year is part of the procedure.
What year are we in right now?
It's going to be the year of the tiger.
But right now it's the ox. We're still in the ox, right?
I do not even know. It's only
you only pay attention to the animal like in the beginning, and then you forget what animal you're in.
I have forgotten so much about it. Anyway, it doesn't count because last year was 5 years long. It was like half the zodiac last year. But this year incoming is the tiger, and tigers are one thing. They are well-groomed, close-cropped fur creatures.
That's right.
They've got that nice short layer of fuzz over their whole bodies, and if wouldn't you want to emulate the tiger's style and
tiger style
with for example Yeah, with accessible product like your Manscaped trimmer.
They're big cats, and if anyone, Brittany, you love cats, and your cats stay groomed, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how Manscaped products would work on cats.
Like, no, yeah. Full disclosure: do not use your Manscaped products on your cats. That's not where this ad is going.
No, I mean if you want to be like a cat, if you want to have that, perfect shiny density.
Yeah, then you would use the Performance Package 4.0, where you'll find the signature lawnmower.
Are you laughing because there's a word that we're not saying? Okay, just kidding.
My mind went somewhere
when
else.
It comes to cats, Manscaped, even though
trimming.
It's not just for men, women can use Manscaped products just as well. Non-binary folks can use Manscaped products. We all want to be groomed. We all want to be nice and smooth. What better way?
My mom really likes the Manscaped trimmer for some reason. I'm not sure what for. Even she just said out loud that she really likes it.
You got Dom's mom's endorsement. What more could you want?
Yeah, I mean, do you have wild hairs coming out of your ear or nose?
Manscaped's got something for that too.
Yeah, the Weed Whacker. It does lots of cool things, which helps prevent, nicks and snags and tugs and whatever in your little delicate holes.
Yeah, that part is really a fun adventure. It's like undoing an Indiana Jones booby trap, but in your own body. Just exploring this sort of cave with like weird tentacles and stuff. But you've got a weed whacker.
Yeah.
Is this a weird thing to be
Not
saying?
at all.
That's what I think of.
So get your products from manscaped.com using our exclusive offer, 20% off free shipping with the code HARDNOC, HARDNOC. Cheers to grooming with the best of the best in the year of the tiger. Hard Knock Life is also brought to you by our friends at Goalie Nutrition. Goalie's the creators of the first ever apple cider vinegar gummy. Brittany, I know that you've been quite enjoying these products.
Yeah, I have. I actually went on their site and used their code to get this package where it comes with the gummies and then all of the gummies, because we didn't get the super greens, and then it comes with the bites that have like chocolate and caramel and stuff. So I'm really excited to try those. I will probably talk about those as soon as I actually get them and try them.
Did you get all three versions of the bites? You have the energy bites, the calm bites, and the multi bites.
Yeah, I think it's like the pack that comes with like pretty much all of this stuff, except for that new one they came out with. I think they came out with the new peanut butter bite thingy.
Yeah, and that's their energy bite.
So yeah, it's everything but that one, I think. But I'm excited to try it because I really like the gummies they sent us.
The ingredients of the apple cider vinegar gummies are known to help with energy metabolism, heart health, immune system support, and living in the time of Corona, you want to boost that immunity as much as you can.
Oh, yeah.
Why don't you take a couple apple cider vinegar gummies a day?
And it definitely tastes better than like trying to do like a spoonful of like apple cider vinegar.
Exactly. You get a tasty gummy, and then you get all of the vitamins that come along with it that give you all of the benefits of fruits and vegetables in a tiny little vegan, gluten-free gummy. So check out goalie.com, use the code HARDNOC, HARDNOC. You'll get 10% off your orders plus free shipping, or go to go.goalie.com/hardknock, HARDNOC, and start enjoying the benefits of apple cider vinegar gummies today. All right, we're back. You know who else is back? Din motherfucking Djarin is back.
Yes.
Din Djarin.
So it's quite ballsy that 5 episodes into your brand new show, you're like, fuck it. Let's just start the other show. The show that everybody else wished this show was. No shade to my man Samir Morrison. But they just gave us a full out Mandalorian episode. 2, basically. It was like the Mandalorian and his covert for the first half, and then the Mandalorian Amy Sedaris on Tatooine for the second half. It's like 2 brilliant Mandalorian episodes back to back, essentially. And I guess you can tell I dug it. I'm curious how you guys felt about the Book of Boba Fett : The Return of the Mandalorian.
I really liked it. I will say that it is my favorite episode that is part of the show, but my favorite like Boba focused episode is still episode 2.
Oh, of course.
I want to make that clear. That
I mean, this wasn't a Boba Fett episode. I mean, let's just be real. Like, this had zero to do with the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, did they even mention how it will connect back up, or did they not mention
I
it at
mean,
all?
Fennec Shan shows up
maybe
the
missed
last
it.
30
Oh
seconds.
yeah, yes,
and was
Fennec Shan
like,
does show up the last minute. You're right. You're right.
"Hey, you want to join us?" And then Din was like, "Okay, but I gotta go get Grogu first." So it was like,
Yeah, that so quickly became about Grogu again. I just thought it was like it could have been something.
is
else
the next
besides Fennec Shan,
episode
but yeah.
about Din going to get Grogu, or is that season 3? And then we won't see Din at all. Like that's where I'm curious.
I don't know, because I feel like then that'd be too much. Like, he's supposed to obviously help Boba with whatever he's trying to do at the end of this season, or. So I definitely think he's gonna be back. I just don't know if he's gonna be in the rest of the next couple episodes. How it's gonna happen, I don't know. Because there's 2 more episodes left.
Maybe there's only 1 episode left, right? Or 2, 1 or 2 left. There's not many left.
Yeah, it's 1 or 2.
Because I feel like I thought it was a 6-episode series. Maybe it's 7. I don't know, but I feel like there's only 1. Maybe there's a time jump. Maybe like season 3 of Mandalorian is the time in between episode 5 and 6 of Boba Fett, and then when we get to the Mandalorian.
Remembering that time floofiness is characteristic of Star Wars. You could be on flying through the asteroid belt time, or you could be on training on Dagobah for 3 months, and it's the same amount of time somehow. Remember, they were not in that asteroid belt for 3 months of Jedi boot camp in Dagobah. Can we just remember that? I mean, that's just an example I give when time doesn't really work in Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, again, and it's the how did Boba Fett age 70 years in 3, and same for Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? He went into the desert as Ewan McGregor and emerged as Alec Guinness in the course of like 19 years.
It's just flowing at different rates in different parts of the universe, which it does.
It's hot. Maybe
Those 2 sons,
Obi-Wan
man,
was not doing a good skincare routine, and
he wasn't taking Goli superfruit gummies. That's for damn
Obviously
sure.
Mm.
Obi-Wan Kenobi needed to take them Goli gummies. So, Dominic, how did you feel about the Mandalorian, kind of like barging in and hijacking this season of Boba Fett?
Well, leaving aside questions of show's season plot structure, which we'll just leave those aside for a second. Yeah, I thought the Return of the Mandalorian episode was really wonderful. It really got to me a couple of ways. It's directed by Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I looked it up, and she also directed a couple episodes of the Mandalorian show. But one of the ones that really stuck with me, which is that one in the middle, which is basically exactly a homage to Magnificent Seven/Seven Samurai. The one where they go to the village
and take down the ATST
and the monsters, the Scout Walkers. That one was really well done. I mean, and okay, I'll sound like a Star Wars purist fan weirdo for talking like this, but the way it was directed was so well composed in the editing, in the shot selection, all the things that old Star Wars did well that Star Wars 9 does terribly. Sorry, I'm just saying, no, if you're a Star Wars 9 person, that's great, good for you. But Star Wars 9, some people are.
Is there anyone?
There are a few people, there are people among nerds of color who really dig Star Wars 9.
Okay,
there's parts of it that I like, but that movie's not it.
Among its horrible things is terribly edited. But anyway, there are a couple set pieces in Howard's episode of Book of Boba Fett which are really great, and they're simple things, like, for example, the duel between the 2 Mandalorians on that bridge. I'm not saying it's the greatest fight scene ever shot, but it's so well staged. So they've got that bridge and they're facing each other down, and the sort of, the metallic sheen over everything. Also point out the flashback where the TIE bombers destroying Mandalore was really striking.
They've referenced the Night of 1,000 Tears a lot in like Clone Wars and in Rebels, and even like Moff Gideon talked about it last season on Mandalorian. That's the first time we've ever seen Mandalore's fall, I think, in any Star Wars media, isn't it? And I'm someone who doesn't read the comics, so I don't know.
Or if we have seen it before, we've probably seen it in like a, edgy close-up, like chaos happening on the ground kind of thing. This was done as sort of like like the old matte paintings.
Yeah.
With this, but shorthanded, but in a very effective way.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to add one more thing, just because it's something I like to bitch about that Star Wars 9 did terribly. It's the thing where we go to another planet and you whenever you're introducing a new planet in Star Wars universe, gotta have the shots of the ship approaching the planet and the ship landing on the planet, and then you feel like you're entering this space and you'll get excited about it. And it's slow, it takes a bit of time, but it's part of how Star Wars achieves its effect. It's I mean, and they do this in this episode. There's time to get this sense of travel and motion.
Well, and to that point, I think what I loved about especially that first half is that lived in, because the thing about Star Wars that I think the what is it's at its most successful is when it feels lived in, right? When it feels like these are real characters, real people moving. That's the cantina scene, right? The cantina scene was so affecting for 50 years because it felt like a real bar, like with all of these wild kind of beings in it. You know, they're playing jizz music in the back and people are drinking their blue milk or whatever. And it just feels like this is people living their lives in this universe. And that's this episode in a nutshell, right? Like after his, first of all, like there's a meat packing factory. That's awesome. Right. They're wearing like over, like they're really just like, you know, with the plastic curtains and everything. It's like, wow, they're actually just like butcher shop. You know what I mean? And then he butchers a bunch of aliens. And I think it's a one shot after he leaves the meatpacking place. He goes to that like nightclub and then walks the path to the elevator and then down to his, it's all like one shot. And you're kind of following him through the alleys of this like amazingly realized like space station city, which is something they've never shown in Star Wars, which is really fucking cool. This kind of like U-shaped space station, you know, that is also a planet, you know, just like Coruscant is a planet. The whole planet's a city. Like, how is that even possible? Like logistically. Anyway, but also like that there's commercial space travel in the Star Wars universe. That was so
and he
cool.
He gets in trouble with airport security, which is a funny gag that, you know, we can all relate to.
Yeah, when we're carrying all of our blasters and whistling birds, you know, and our carry-on luggage. But
yeah, even just him sitting basically in an airplane, looking at the baby Greedo in front of him, like this is a little bit new for Star Wars. Yeah. It's a little bit modern.
Speaking of baby Greedo, who lost it when, you know, Din saw a little baby Greedo and then like remembered his little buddy and pulled out the little package that the armor made for him that was also shaped in the baby Grogu shape. Come on, who wasn't bawling at that scene?
It's a little Mando helmet for him.
Do you think that's what it is?
Yeah, because it's shaped like his ears. It's got to be a little like, yeah. I don't know. That's what I thought it was. And I was like, oh.
I know. I was bawling at that point. I was like, it's so sad. He misses his baby boy.
It is pretty darn cute. But I am curious what the armor made there because, like, no, it looked like she was making little chains for a second. It's like, you're not making a little
chainmail.
That's not something you need. But at the same time, like, covering the cute baby Yoda with a Mandalorian armor? What is that? How is that gonna play? Is he supposed to, like, is that the thing that a little Force guru needs?
And then do you need like can he fold his ears back under the helmet, or does he need like does the helmet need to be shaped to cover his ears?
I just think it'll be really weird looking. But maybe that's what they have to try. I mean, I guess the essential thing is always keeping the helmet on. I mean, the essential thing to the Mandalorian code is the mask thing, so I assume that's one of the first things you get.
Yeah. He got kicked out.
He got kicked out. He's got to go bathe in the waters of Mandalore or some shit.
Right. And even all that was just like jargony, whatever. Like, I still loved it. Like,
well, yeah, and they've also addressed that like there's various factions of Mandalorians, and like they just happen to be like a really devout kind of like religious nuts who don't take their helmet. Because like when he met Bo-Katan, she was like, "Yeah, we take our helmets off. What the fuck you talking about?" You know. And then every Mandalorian we've seen thus far has always been like willing to take their helmets. Like on Clone Wars, they, you know, Sabine's always got her helmet off. When we're on Mandalore, like no one's wearing helmets. You know, so like they're just like Death Watch. I think that's what they're part of. Is just this weird like culty, you know, we don't take our helmets off type thing. And Din was like, you know, here's the thing, like He didn't have to say yes. You know what I mean?
He didn't. But that whole code of honor thing is,
I guess.
you can't tell lies to the armorer.
What do we think of Amy Sedaris' return? Because I know that like during Mandalorian seasons, a lot of people, she's not everyone's cup of tea. I always thought she was hilarious.
I like her, and
Pelly.
and she sleeps with Jawas. Wild.
Yeah, they're furry apparently.
She's those.
Yeah.
Oh, those were some cute Jawas.
And well, Pelly's got her own got her own tastes, man. And what I also love about the Mandalorian is not just the Mandalorian, but like I love when Star Wars embraces all aspects of Star Wars, and they fully embraced like the prequels with Mando's new ship. He's got himself a Naboo starfighter.
Well, I mean, the next show is going to be Kenobi.
That's right, with Ewan and Hayden. So they are not ashamed of the prequels. So that's.
And I never liked that ship, that Naboo starfighter. Did you? But I thought it was, again, so beautifully done, that whole sequence when they rediscovered and reclaimed it for the Mandalorian. But I just personally didn't like the design of that Naboo starfighter. I just thought a little, as much as like an X-wing or an A-wing.
It was too like Buck Rogers for Star Wars.
Yeah, it looked like a sort of like a weird malformed bird, not even in a good way. I don't know. Maybe it's just too bendy. And I like the ones that are like angly.
Yeah, I thought it was just cool to bring back.
A minor point,
yeah,
to be sure.
I thought it was just cool to bring it back. The one thing I was wondering though is that like, because clearly Mando's going back to bounty hunting. That's how the episode kicks off with him, bounty hunting that Clatoonian or whatever those aliens are called. But the Naboo starfighter doesn't seem to be the best equipped ship to like bounty hunt with, because you can't put shit in it. Like you can stick a droid in the droid compartment, which they've hollowed out because she thought he eats droids. And I'm thinking that's going to be
one person, probably Grogu.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the pilot. But then like, where is he going to put his bounty? Like, where is he going to like store shit? But
it's very good practical consideration.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Maybe they're strapped to the bottom.
Maybe like a Christmas tree.
Uncomfortable. You can't carry much shit in there. Naboo fighter. But a great sequence, and then he basically like is pulled over by the cops.
X-wing cops.
Which is another familiar world experience of the kind that we don't see in Star Wars every day. Yeah, and then it's the same guys from the other.
Right. With
including the Kim's a Convenience guy.
That's right. OKC. So overall, are we dreading the return to the main storyline, or do we want to keep following Din on his quest to rescue Grogu from the Jedi?
Well, obviously, I have overall liked Book of Boba Fett, so for me, I'm okay with going back to the main story. But I just can't wait for season 3 of Mandalorian. I really love Mandalorian; it's such a good show. So,
yeah. I mean, if season 3, if this is like a preview of the quality of season 3, because that's the thing too, because people are wondering like, what would season 3 of the Mandalorian be? Because Grogu's he accomplished what the first 2 seasons he set out to accomplish: bring Grogu back to his people, and we saw that. It's kind of like Batman without his Robin, right? He goes back to becoming brutal and he's, because he's like straight murking those guys in the meatpacking place, right? Like he's taking the Darksaber and like fucking dudes up. And of course he still holds the Darksaber. That's another plot point coming out of season 2 that hasn't, needs some resolution. What does that mean that he carries a Darksaber? Now the armorer and the heavy Mandalorian guy, the descendant, like, they know he has the Darksaber. So what does that mean when the other Mandalorians show up? Because are they going to still like rally to help him as much as they did in the past? Or are they going to challenge him? Like I think season 3 could be much more Mandalorian lore heavy, Mandalore heavy, or
maybe they'll have Luke teach him how to wield the Darksaber.
Do we want more CGI Luke though?
It's awkward.
I just hope they don't do CGI Luke, because the guy who they casted looks enough like Luke Skywalker that you could just use his actual face. Like the guy who was actually the body actor.
He was the X-Wing fighter. He was the other X-Wing fighter.
That's what I thought when I was watching it. I was like, is that Max? Because his name's like Max Lord Jones or something like that. Lloyd Jones or something. But yeah, I think he could easily just be Luke Skywalker.
Maybe. I as much as cool as his appearance on Mando was, kind of don't want Luke in the show. I just because I feel like they were so good at creating their own space
They
in the
cannot
universe
stretch that out for very long.
that including like even Ahsoka and Luke, like all the Jedi stuff. As cool as it is to see like here and there, I just feel like I don't want it to shrink the universe of Star Wars, because that was always the problem with the sequel trilogy. Ultimately, right? It became like the Skywalker. Let's move beyond the Skywalkers. No, let's not move beyond the Skywalkers, right? And with Mandalorian, it was like, this is a way to move beyond the Skywalkers.
Yeah, I think the problem was the fan base not wanting to move beyond.
Yeah.
The certain fan base not wanting to move beyond the Skywalkers, so that's why they did what they did with episode 9, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, speaking of episode 9 in the sequel trilogy, if the timelines, I know time is a flat circle in Star Wars, Dominic, but if the timelines match up, when we do get to the Jedi Academy, the new Jedi Academy to find Grogu, there will be like a little 5-year-old Ben Solo running around the academy too. Maybe that's where season 3 goes.
The thing was, we know that Ben was not sent at the proper age. He was sent when they were just like, it kind of came off as they just dumped him there because.
So 5-year-old Ben Solo won't be Grogu's.
He would have to be older.
Bunkmate.
He would have to be a lot older. So. Oh,
speaking of Grogu, do you think they're going to pull a baby Groot, and then next time we see Grogu, he's actually a moody emo teenager?
I hope not. I hope not, but I don't know. Depending on how they do it, it might actually end up working. So we'll see.
We don't know how they age.
It's fine if he starts talking. If he starts saying a few words.
I am Groot. Hey, watch your mouth.
Yeah, no. That exact joke is already well done in that other part of the Disney universe. But yeah, we should make a meme of that for sure.
Emo teenager Groot, because it won't be baby
Grogu.
Yeah, Groot.
I am Grogu.
I am Grogu.
is would be the cheapest possible trick.
That's
I'm saying I'm in favor of him learning words and more naturalistic baby.
Grogu, I guess is.
It should have the guy who actually
that's how he would say it.
Stitch voice Grogu.
Yes.
He sounds like Stitch.
Like Stitch, yeah.
That would be amazing. Hell, Stitch should be one of the other baby Jedis that they encounter
Honestly?
at the new academy. I wouldn't put it past them. Anyway, yeah, I'm stoked. Give me more Mando. We don't talk about Mando, but Mando is that's what they're saying over at the Book of Boba Fett. We don't talk about Mando. No.
That's good. I don't.
Anyway.
Yes. That's very good.
Thank you. That's the episode title. Brittany, what you been nerd popping with?
I guess honestly just Dexter.
He's all about Dexter.
Yeah, it's good. I don't know. I was really happy that I figured out the killer for the first season, but now in the second season they're trying to figure out who the Bay Harbor killer is when we all know it's Dexter. So that's different.
Spoiler alert for a 10-year-old show.
Yeah, it's fun though. I like it. That's kind of it. Really, I haven't watched Peacemaker or anything else yet.
Yeah.
So
Well, hey, you it's no shame in watching old stuff, man. That's what streaming is all about. Catching up on stuff that's been around and checking that out. Dominic, what's nerd popping?
I've been reading a bit of this book called All the Marvels by Douglas Wolk, which I don't know if you've seen or not. It's this book by the guy who supposedly read every Marvel comic. Everyone in Marvel superhero universe, discounting some things, sadly discounting G.I. Joe because, licensed to other property and some of the romance comics, but basically read every Marvel superhero comic. Right. And it's cool. It's basically a bunch of curated reading lists, and he has a chapter towards the end, just kind of compare contrast of Miss Marvel and Squirrel Girl as to recent Marvel inventions who sort of recapture the spirit that was essential to the Marvel thing. It makes an interesting assertion that Kamala Khan gets the Spider-Man thing right in a way that they hadn't gotten in a while. It is their closest modern analog to the perfect Peter Parker sort of problem, which I would like to take up again at length. Not now, but a little bit later when we could, Miss Marvel's closer to, we can talk about how she really gets that Spider-Man spirit.
I love Miss Marvel.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that the show kind of captures that spirit from the comics.
Yeah. Well, I read the first like couple of series that G. Willow Wilson did. So those are so good.
Yeah.
And yourself, Keith? Has anything nerd popping?
For me, I've been checking out this show that just dropped on HBO Max called Takeout with Lisa Ling. It's essentially like a docu-series where she goes around and visits different Asian American communities and tells the stories of their community's particular, foods and stuff. And the first season dropped all at once, 6 episodes. And I'm actually going to talk to Lisa this week. So be on the lookout for my interview with Lisa Ling on the Nerds of Color YouTube channel. But essentially, it's a show right after my own heart, because like one of the episodes is about the Filipino community in Louisiana. So, I do the Southern Fried Asian podcast. So I'm like, yeah, I'm all about that episode. She also visits the Korean American community in Virginia. Again, I was like, perfect. I love when they center Asian Americans in the South. And then, of course, she tells of her own story growing up in Northern California as a child of parents or family. I don't know if it's her parents, but her family ran a Chinese restaurant in Sacramento, and her various stages of shame and disgust with her own like Chinese restaurant roots as someone who grew up in a Chinese restaurant as well. So I'm looking forward to talking to her about it and about the show.
I went to UCLA with her sister Laura. Just
cool.
Point of information, yeah,
awesome.
Back in the day. I was also a journalist, I believe. I haven't seen her in a while.
Yeah. So I get Lisa Ling's new show. I mean, it's not a cooking show; it's a food show. It's a travelogue where she visits all these different communities, which is appropriate considering. Anyway, that's it for Hard Knock Life. Brittany Monet, how can people find you on the internet?
Find me on Twitter and whatnot at Hi Brittany Monet. You can also check out at Naomi Podcasts, where you can listen to the Naomi Podcast, the backlog of Black Lightning Podcasts, and also the Lituation Room. That's all I've got going on so far.
That's a lot. Dominic, how can they find you on the internet?
Hi, I'm Dominic Ma at Dom Ma on Instagram or Twitter, DOMMAH.
You can find me on Twitter at @TheRealChild, _real_child, and follow the Nerds of Color at the Nerds of Color. Go to hardknockmedia.com to find this and all the podcasts in the Hard Knock Network. Give us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. That'll help people find the podcast. Go to patreon.com/the Nerds of Color to support us there. And until next time.
It would be funny if Grogu's first words were "Ain't fair." It's like, this is what happens when you get raised by bounty hunters.
Yeah,
you start cursing.
There you go.
Dank
fair. Or would it be fair dank if Grogu?
Fair dank.
Yeah. Also, like, is it a speech impediment Yoda has, or do all of the species talk backwards?
That's the question.
Mm-hmm. I think we'll find out.
Yeah.
This is the hard knock life, but not the chicken kind. More like the people in